Stablecoins continue to absolutely crush. We are seeing in the last 7 days a change of $4.42 billion added to the market cap for stablecoins, sitting at about 262 and almost $500,000,000. We are constantly seeing a massive push in the stablecoin markets, which is generating a ton of buzz. In fact, it's terrifying the big banks. We talked about this earlier, today. And when we think about the banks being terrified, they are going to flip. They're going to start to dive on into the stablecoin market. They're going to start to look at this and say, we need a stablecoin. We need to do this. We need to do that because, we are seeing so much growth within the stablecoin market and around crypto. We're seeing all these big players like Tether and Circle and even Ripple, all becoming extremely successful. We need to get a piece of this because if we don't, we're going to be phased out. They understand the risk here. And they also understand that they are working on a ticking time bomb because this is only going to explode much, much higher. Stablecoins are only going to become much bigger. And the big banks, if they're not a participant here, they're going to be sitting on the sidelines, wishing that they got behind this sooner. So when we think about this, okay, let's take a quick look at what recently just happened. Here we have from Subjective Views, new SEC Chair Paul Atkins says, we can now move to an instantaneous almost settlement payment versus delivery for securities thanks to on-chain stablecoins. This is very interesting. Check this out.
For the first time now, the United States government has put its stamp of approval on a very key and important, potentially very important digital asset that will, I think, help to lower costs, lower risks in the market, because we can now move towards an instantaneous almost settlement, payment versus delivery for securities, thanks to on-chain stablecoins. And that will help, I think, innovation and to really get our markets, to be the best in the world.
Now, the fact that the SEC is saying this, right? Think about how crazy that is. If we go back 5 years ago, the SEC was targeting Ripple. If we go back 4 years ago, the SEC was targeting almost every single crypto exchange. It was targeting so many crypto projects. Bankrupted Library, which is a crypto project. If you guys were around during that time, you would know. But if we think about how hostile the SEC was compared to now hearing this come out of this is the acting chairman of the SEC saying this. Like, think about how wild this is. But also, think about the wording here. Again, if you've been a follower of the channel for quite some time, if you've been doing your research on Ripple, this screams Ripple. Even when we go over to ROUSD on Ripple's website, the first thing we're met with is real-time payments and easy fiat to stablecoin on and off ramps. If we continue to scroll down, we could see remittance and money transfers enable seamless and near instant cross-border settlement with easy stablecoin fiat and crypto asset on and off ramping. We can now move to an instantaneous almost settlement payment versus delivery for securities thanks to on-chain stablecoins. Ripple has been focused on this for years. In fact, if we scroll all the way down and we just go to the About Us section, we have building the internet of value, enabling the world to move value the way information moves today. This is exactly the mission statement of Ripple's. And it's been in process since, going back to even 2012, 2013. And now we have the SEC behind this. And we're starting to move into a world where stablecoins are now the big thing. And all of the big banks are jumping onto this, right? Because, again, like I said, they are panicking. They are scared. They don't want to miss out on this. Especially when you have an SEC chairman like Paul Atkins telling you how big this is going to be. Now, Let's go over here. Just in, Charles Schwab, a major US financial services company managing trillions in assets, says that once market structure, the Clarity Act, is passed, it will boost investor confidence in this space. We already got the Genius Act, which opens up the door for stablecoins to boom in a much larger way. I would argue that by the end of this year, we'll see easily $300+ billion for stablecoins. They're only going to continue to grow. And then mix in the Clarity Act, yeah, we'll see trillions of dollars flood this space, and we'll see this entire space erupt in a much larger way. And that's even in the short term and even the long term. But check this out.
I want to move now to you. It's the first I've gotten to speak to you since crypto week ended, and we finally have our first ever federal legislation to regulate stable coins. What is the significance of now the Genius Act being signed into law and the other two acts now moving to get approval?
Yeah, Marley, I think it's a really significant moment for the crypto industry. There's no question about that. It's the culmination of something that started back in 2024 when the SEC approved the first Bitcoin exchange traded funds. And of course, we now have Bitcoin ETFs and Ether ETFs and other cryptocurrency ETFs in the works. And I think Congress realized at that point that they needed to put a regulatory structure around the crypto space and really give investors more confidence that there was, sort of a cop on the beat. And so I do think that's happening with the stablecoins bill. And then the second bill, the Clarity Act, which would make a regulatory structure for crypto more broadly than just stablecoins, that passed the House. That now has to go to the Senate, which expects to work on it this fall. And that would clarify, again, who's in charge. It would give a lot of the responsibility to the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC, with some secondary responsibility to the SEC. And again, I think if that bill gets passed, I think that'll also help boost investor confidence in this space.
And yeah, listen, this is exactly what we should be focused on as crypto investors, right? The market structure bill, which is the Clarity Act, because this is going to provide us with the clarity for crypto in the US that, almost every single institutional player wants. Now, on top of this, when we are thinking about this, we go over here to all of the big banks. For an example, on July 21st, by the way, all of these are the same date that Paul Atkins was talking about how stablecoins are going to enable this, that we are now moving into this world. Here we have from Western Union CEO saying that the bank is looking into offering stablecoin products in its digital wallets to the customers around the world. Stablecoins are an opportunity, not a threat, they're saying. Listen closely.
What's the rollout looking like for Western Union on that front?
Well, we're already innovating in several places in the world on moving money and settling. So both in South America and in Africa, we are innovating our settlement processes to move money quicker and to more easily convert into local currency in partnerships with some of the infrastructure companies you've had on this show. So we are also exploring other partnerships with people who want on-ramps and off-ramps in different parts of the world on how we could enable Western Union's funds in and funds out to enable people to purchase and sell stablecoins. Finally, we're investigating how we might offer stablecoin products in our digital wallets to our customers around the world, again, in partnerships with many of the companies that you've talked to over the course of the last couple of weeks.
What's the balance between this push into that space, and not just with regards to crypto, but overall the more digital strategy that I know you and your team at Western Union have been working on for some time, the balance between that and what we see in the traditional retail side of the business?
Right, and so we have about $1 billion revenue digital business. It's growing obviously at faster rates than our traditional retail business. We also think of our retail business not just as cash. So retail is a value proposition where you can have in-person service. People will fund with bank products, cards.
So yeah, listen, if Western Union is jumping in on this, there's so many big banks here, right? This is not just the one bank that is starting to do this. There's so many of them, right? For an example, Deutsche Bank just said back on June 7th that they're considering issuing its own crypto stablecoin. On top of that, Citigroup is considering issuing its own stablecoin as well to facilitate digital payments. And JP Morgan, they already filed their trademark for JPMD, which is technically, it's not exactly a stablecoin. It's more of a deposit token. They're looking to pilot this deposit token, JPMD, on Base. But what's crazy about this is, if you actually look at everything, it's all based around virtual and digital currency, digital tokens and payment tokens, decentralized application tokens, and then blockchain-enabled currency. This is everything that embodies a stablecoin, essentially. I understand that's a deposit token. All of these big banks will have their, stablecoin, which will basically just be a deposit token. Everyone's concerned about this with projects like, for example, XRP. But think about this, right? These are every single thing that one of these banks do, whether it be a stablecoin or a deposit token, it's all walled gardens. It's stuck within their system. So you need something to bridge all of these deposit tokens, all of these stablecoins, and that's where you have XRP enter the discussion. But also over here, we have JP Morgan explores crypto-backed loans. This just recently happened. Again, when we think about institutional adoption, it's just picking up in a huge way. And this is only going to continue more and more. We're starting to see institutional FOMO on crypto because, for so long they've missed out. And now when we think about what's happening, you have regulators talking about this. You have the stablecoin market booming. You have the tokenization market booming. They want to get behind this. They're missing out on so much money right now. And also, don't forget that Bank of America's CEO back in February said that stablecoins are inevitable, hinting at Bank of America possibly launching its own token pegged to USD deposit accounts if regulations allow it. Also, back in January, Bank of America's CEO says the financial industry is ready to adopt crypto payments if regulators give the green light. We basically have the regulators giving the green light. They're talking about this openly. We already have the green light from the Fed, the FDIC, and even the OCC. And it's just crazy that this is all happening, right? It seems as though, like I said, every single bank, from Western Union to Deutsche Bank to Citi to JP Morgan, and even Wells Fargo's out there doing their thing. We've been seeing so many big banks on the sidelines jumping in on the stablecoin boom. Every single bank is now FOMOing in. Every single bank. And when it comes to Bank of America, we really look at Ripple as well, because again, Ripple did say that US banks will want to use XRP cryptocurrency after partial victory in the SEC fight. That was back in 2023. The case is basically finished. It's basically wrapped up. And we've been talking about Bank of America and Ripple for quite some time. We already know that Bank of America and Ripple have been long-term partners for a very long time. And on top of that, we also know that Bank of America already told us that they would want to use XRP once the lawsuit was fully wrapped up. Because again, the big thing holding back all of these big banks is regulations and also the lawsuit. If you're a bank that has to abide by, regulatory scrutiny and, laws and rules, you don't want to get caught up in, something where there's an active lawsuit. No, you want to see all that stuff cleared, but also you don't want to tie yourself to an industry that doesn't have full-on clarity, which is why when we go back to that post over here, Charles Schwab is 100% correct. Once that Clarity Act is passed, it's going to boost not only investor confidence, but institutional confidence as well. The entire market's going to boom off of these major bills. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.